However, this reflection becomes refracted proportional to the degree of mental conditioning that one has. Let's look up the word refraction. Where's my phone? We're talking about the nature of reality. Greetings, 64. We're talking about the nature of reality. Did you get what I just said? So the refraction, there's reflection and there's refraction. Okay, let's look up the word refraction. And if you break the word down, refraction, you almost can see. Refraction is the bending of light as it passes between different mediums. For example, from air to water. It's caused by changes in light speed. It's caused by changes in frequency. So I'm going to read that again, and then we're going to go back to the teaching, okay? Refraction is the bending of light as it passes between different mediums. For example, light can pass through the air into water, and when you look at the light in the water, it looks different, does it not? It's bent, and it's the result of changes in the speed of light. Light passes through air at a different speed than it passes through water because the densities are different. Does that make sense? Hey, B-side, I'm going to pull this all together, but I want to make sure it makes sense. When we talk about refraction, we're talking about the way light is changed, the way it bends when it passes through different mediums. For example, air travels at a certain speed, light travels at a certain speed through air. Then when it hits water, it travels at a certain speed. You can even see that it looks different. It looks bent. When you look at a sun ray, you look at it hit the water, it even looks bent. Have you experienced that? Have you seen that? Because I want to make this realistic for you so that when we take it into the spiritual, it makes sense. Does this make sense? Thank you. Hey, the one count, they counted out. I don't want to just be talking gibberish. I want to talk and you understand. Okay? So we have the reflection of light, and then we have the refraction of light. Refractioning is the bending of light according to changes in the medium. Okay? Reflection of light is light rays bouncing back when they hit an opaque surface. Now let's look at the difference between reflection and refraction. This is something that you're really going to have to apply your mind to, okay? Reflection and refraction. Reflection is the bouncing of light off of a surface back to the original medium. Reflection is light bouncing on a surface and coming back to the original medium. It goes out, bounces back, okay? Refraction is the bending of light as it passes from one medium into another due to a change in speed, a change in vibration. Air has a different vibration than water. Water is denser. So the light is going to shift frequencies when it hits water. Reflection is the light bouncing back. Refraction is a change in the speed of the light. Again, reflection, the light is maintaining the speed and it's bouncing back. Hey, Goddess Infusion. Refraction is the light hitting another surface, another medium, and changing the frequency. Now, hey, A1 Scholarly. Now, since we understand the difference between reflection and refraction, let us go back to the text. Can we? Say yes if we can. Do you see the difference between reflection and refraction? And if you apply your inner knowing to this, you can kind of see where this is going, right? Reflection and refraction. All right. So let's read. As the human soul is essentially a piece of God, as it were, the human also has a shadow. God is manifested or reflected in each individual. In each individual, God is manifested and reflected. However, okay, so we have a statement of that which is being said as true, and then we have a contrast. However, this reflection, see, at first you had the same frequency, but the refraction becomes refracted. The frequency changes proportional to the degree of mental conditioning that one has. So when your light took the shape of a human form, right, you can continue to reflect God or refract, change the frequency depending on your conditioning. So I always come back to this question: why is it beneficial to elevate? Why is it beneficial to grow? Why is it beneficial to release attachments? Why is it beneficial? Because all of that, Indian yoga calls that mental modifications, vrittis, all of that refract your light. All of that changes the frequency of how God is streamed through your human vessel. That's another way I can say it. So you could stay in your patterns, yes. You could justify your patterns, yes. You could keep vibrating in the same energy, yes. But that's refracting your godness. It's changing the frequency of it. It's bending it. It's still there, but it's bending it. So if you desire to become more of God in this form we call human, it is so good. If you have the desire and the intention to reflect God versus be refracted by conditioning, then you would want to let some of that stuff go. You would not be making excuses for it. You would not be going round and round in circles. You would call it what it is instead of playing around with it. Because your desire and your intent is elevation, and elevation is streaming more of your godness through every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system, every thought, every belief, every word, every behavior, every expression, every interpretation. This is good. Yes, tell me, is it good to you? I know 64 said it's good. Is it good to y'all? Or y'all still want to make excuses and reasons for staying the same, for attaching to certain ways of being that don't benefit you? It doesn't really benefit anyone. This is not about denying your conditioning. This is about becoming aware of your conditioning and how it actually is influencing whether or not you reflect or refract. Let's continue. Just as a ray of light which passes through a glass prism becomes refracted and produces many rays, so too God's expression in an individual is refracted by the ignorance of the mind, producing many different situations and objects. To the extent that the soul is a prisoner of physical desires. You feel like you can't stop doing it. You feel like you can't stop wanting it. You feel like you can't stop being it. That's prisoner mentality. That's powerlessness. The vrittis produce suffering, powerlessness, and lack. Am I buffering or am I good? Because it just looked like it lost connection. And I want to make sure we get this goodness. This is spiritual food. Thank you for liking the live. I appreciate y'all who are tapping the screen. Greetings, Lynette. How are you? Remember when we were young, I'm 48, so y'all can put your ages in the chat. I'm 48, but we used to get these little toys from the dollar store um, that were prisms, like you could look through it and the light it would just be all this different light shining from it. It was a prism, right? So what this is saying is God streams into your human vessel, and then the human vessel refracts the light, causes it to spread out and be different colors and emanations based upon the ignorance or conditioning, and then you become a prisoner to that. Let's continue. I'm going to read it one more time. Just as a ray of light which passes through a glass, think of the stained glasses that are in Catholic churches. That's where I've seen them. But you know what? I've seen stained glass in my childhood church, Missionary Baptist, as well. The sunlight shines on the glass, and then what you see is many different colors and such, but it's not the ray of light that originally passed through. Do you remember that? Do you resonate with that? I want to make sure I'm using something that makes sense. The light streams through the glass, and then the glass breaks it up into different ways, different colors. And it's so beautiful, but it is not a reflection of the original ray of light that first came through. Anybody else other than 64 get that analogy? Yeah, okay, good. All right, perfect, perfect. Okay, let's keep going. Just as the ray of light which passes through a glass prism becomes refracted and produces many rays, so too God's expression in an individual is refracted by the ignorance of the mind, producing many different situations and objects, to the extent that the soul is a prisoner of physical desires and mental ignorance, which do not allow it to be in tune with the mind of God. It does not allow you to be in tune with the mind of God. You are in tune with the refraction of God. These things don't, why should you shift? Why should you elevate? Because all of these different desires and conditionings and all of this dysfunction does not allow you to stream the purity of who you are. It doesn't allow it. It reminds me of a scripture in the Bible that says, the carnal mind. Oh, let me read it because it's good. The carnal mind does not submit to the mind of God, neither will it nor can it submit to the will of God. This is synonymous. Do y'all remember that scripture? Y'all know I'm not Christian, but I do still have scripture in me, and it comes up, the ones that are true, right? Romans 8:7. It says, because, hold on, I want to see it in all the translations because I like some of them better than others. This is yoga, and we have Christians sitting here talking about yoga is evil, but there's some direct correlation, right? Here it is. The mind of the flesh with its sinful pursuits, they're calling it sin. This Kemetic Yoga is calling it ignorance of who you are, right? The mind of the flesh only associating with the flesh, with its sinful pursuits, the vrittis, is actively hostile to God. It doesn't let you stream God. It does not submit itself to God's law, to universal laws, since it cannot. Let me read another one. The carnal mind is enmity against God. It's the opposite. It's opposing, for it's not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be. So again, why should we evolve? Because this conditioned thinking that is not in harmony with universal truth, number one, it keeps you prisoner. It keeps you away from the God that is you. It keeps you from elevating. So you want to keep in the same patterns and blame it on the retrograde. Oh, the retrograde made me do it. That's like people saying the devil made you do it. oh, the moon is in the eclipse and it's causing me to choose this. No, your vrittis cause you to do it, and you are a prisoner to them. Therefore, you have to do what the vrittis are allowing you to do based upon what is presented, because you could be making another choice, but you really can't because you won't come out of the conditioning. You actually vouch for it and make reasons and justifications about why you're the way that you are. Making sense? Let me know. Talk to me. What y'all think? Do you see the correlation between the scripture and also what I read in Kemetic Yoga? That's also in Indian yoga. So you can keep saying the planets made you do it, the devil made you do it. It's the same. Y'all don't like people walking around saying the devil is a liar. The devil didn't want me, but you saying the Mercury retrograde made you go back with your ex when you... I'm just saying, let's continue. God... Let's see. The soul is then a prisoner of the physical desires and the mental ignorance, which do not allow it to be in tune with the mind of God. It, the human mind, is fettered to the mortal physical body, and thus it is unable to see its soul. When you are in conditioning that does not reflect universal truth, you are not able to see your own soul. So how much less can you see the soul of someone else? We're busy, like the whole spiritual community, just be like, I see this. I see your soul. I'm concerned because if your light is refracted and you project that refraction outwardly, I'm concerned about what you see. Don't worry about seeing me. Okay, don't worry about seeing me. But let me know if you see you. Hey, Roz, excuses, abuse, accountability. Let me know if you see your own soul. I want to know if you can see yourself, or are your vrittis, your conditioning, holding you prisoner, right? Because I don't want you to see me through the prism and your refraction, right? Do you actually see your pure light of God? Hey, Dr. Jada, how are you? It's good to see you. Let's continue. God is the only reality that exists, the absolute reality. But it appears to the ignorant or conditioned mind that the world, our bodies, and the universe exists outside of God. We believe ourselves to be separate objects and entities. Thus, this is relative reality. In reality, everything is one. Let me go back, because when I stuttered, some meaning might have got lost. We believe ourselves to be separate objects and entities. This is relative reality. So when we ask what is reality, we see a distinction, a relative reality and reality. We have relative truth, your truth, my truth, their truth, and absolute truth, which is the truth of God. When you have relative truth as your conditioning, and you hang on to it and you don't expand and grow, you think your truth is reality, and it's not. You live in an illusion. You call things that they are not, and you call things that are not as though they were, right? And you become confused about what is real and what isn't. In absolute reality, everything is one. Relative reality is the state most people are caught up in. This is why you argue. This is why We need to be right. We need to be wrong. We need to be seen a certain way. We don't want to be seen in that way. We repel, we repulse, we push, we pull because we are caught up in a relative reality of what I am and what you are and what I'm not. And we will go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, never reaching the soul level together, but thinking you did. In other words, if you think about the ocean, which is however many feet deep, I'm not even going to quote it because I don't know, but I know it's way more than 3 feet deep. So you're 3 feet deep and you think you're at the bottom of the ocean, but you're in an illusion. It's only 3 feet. I remember my daughter when she was learning how to swim. Now, she was taller than well, she might have been a little bit over 3 feet, just a little bit. In fact, she could stand up in 3 feet on her tiptoes. But when she was learning to swim, she was in an illusion that she was not going to be able to touch the bottom. So she started fighting the swim teacher and she started saying, I can, I'm going to drown, I'm going to drown. And she was just in a whole illusion, fighting. This water is too deep for me. I'm not going to be able to stand up. That's what she was saying. And then the teacher said, stop limiting yourself. Stand up. Put your feet down. She put her feet down and okay, all of a sudden she felt safer. Her relative reality was the illusion. The absolute truth was you're actually tall enough if you stand on your tiptoes. Her teacher caused her to come out of the relative illusion into the absolute truth, and that liberated her. And then she was no longer scared and began to swim. Now, what if she was too scared to try? She would have stayed in that relative illusion, that self-imposed limitation, and she would not be able to stream the reflection of God. In other words, her power. She would be stuck and prisoner to the illusion when it's not even true. Is that clear? Are you able to relate to this? Because I don't want it just to stay as a spiritual principle. I want you to be able to take this. I'm about to end this teaching, so I want to make sure this is clear. Relative reality is an illusion. It exists only in our minds. It exists only in our minds. It's not real. It's like the boogeyman when we were young. There really was a boogeyman under my bed. And even though my parents would come in and shine the flashlight under the bed and show me nothing was there, in my mind it still was there, they just didn't see it. God not only created the world, but God is the world. That's in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was with God in the beginning. Hello. Hey, G. Everything we perceive, what our senses, is God, meaning we perceive the air, we perceive the fire, we perceive nature. Okay? We must transcend relative reality to live within absolute reality. We must transcend relative reality, my truth. Well, okay, some people say, well, that feels threatening, but it's not threatening. But it feels threatening, but it's not threatening. You want to live in relative reality, it feels threatening, or you want to live in absolute reality, it's not threatening. A couple of years ago, I did a teaching on rejection. And I said, rejection is not real. I gave an absolute truth because it depends on your mindset whether or not you perceive something as rejection. You know, there was people in the audience so mad at me in the chat talking about, yes, it is. Okay. Why wouldn't you want to know it's not real? What you mean? Tell me. Tell me how it's not real. Wouldn't you want to elevate rather than hold on to it? But no, they needed to hold on to it. They needed to feel rejected. They needed to fear rejection. They needed to believe that rejection was real because somehow that created some sense of comfort for them. And I said, Ashe, I'm not talking to y'all because I'm not. I'm talking to someone who goes, I've been fearing rejection my whole life. And right now you're telling me it's not real. Can you explain what you mean by that? Because I'm ready to come up from under the slavery of it. That's who I'm talking to. Someone who's sitting there going, yes, it is. You know, a post that caused me to go viral when I first got on TikTok back in 2020, I think it was. I just said, empaths stop absorbing. That's all I said. I pointed to the words. The post went bananas. It went viral so fast. And there were thousands of people in the comments saying, I have to absorb. I can't help it. Even some people stitched it and vouched for the fact they had to absorb. They wanted to hang on. And I said, there are thousands of people here. And at this point, hundreds of thousands who've seen it, thousands who've commented that I'm not talking to. Hey, John. There's thousands of people that I'm not talking to. But there is a remnant, a few compared, that I am talking to. And those who have eyes see, and those who have ears hear, and those who have a heart to know, they know, and those who have a mind to understand, they understand. The rest of it sounds like gibberish to them. They think I just found something clever to say. They think I'm trying to deceive them into being greater. And I've noticed that when a person's level of consciousness is on the lower end, if I, hey, Divine herself, if I give them an absolute truth, it hurts so bad, it touches their shame, that they fold in and they say, you're the problem. You're to this and you're to that. And oh my God, because they're doing this inside. But I'm here for the person that was like this, but they're like, I want to be like this. So yeah, it hurts, but give it to me. Because I must become greater. Yeah, right, projecting. I must become greater. I must elevate. Tell me. It's shielding the ego, right? And it's holding them prisoner within because they need to be living from their ba, but they're living from the ka, right? Let's continue. We must transcend relative reality. We must. To live within the absolute reality. We must. To not only understand this greatest teaching, but to know it means complete bliss and happiness. Yoga is a scientific process to accomplish the goal of transcendence, liberation, salvation, self-realization. Ashe. There's so much I could say about this. It's so rich. It's so good. It's so beautiful. But I think what I've said has accomplished what it was sent out to accomplish. I'm going to post this along with my previous teaching on YouTube. Why evolve? Why release patterns? Why release mindsets? Because your ability to reflect God depends on it. You could decide whether I want to be a refraction. You're still good. You're still beautiful, right? But when you have in mind to reflect God, then you must let this old way pass, and behold, all things become new. That's a scripture. It's all truth. There's a scripture that says, no man, no wise one, no man puts old wine into, no man puts new wine into old wineskin, because he knows that he will ruin both the wineskin and the wine if he tries to do it. And if you think about wineskin as being a leather bag, right? If it's an old wineskin, it likely has been holding wine for a long time, and leather will start to crack, right? And so let's say you deplete the wineskin with the wine, you drink it all, and you try to pour some new fresh wine in it. The wineskin will burst. And now your new wine is not only seeping out, but it's contaminated with leather. And now the old wineskin and the new wine is ruined. It's pointless. So continuing to be in your old patterns, even though you're gaining more knowledge and not digesting it, right, is keeping you from being the reflection of God in purity. You're living by a relative reality and not absolute reality. God is the absolute reality. Your conditioning is the relative reality. So I leave you with that question today. Will you choose absolute reality or relative reality? Will you choose to be in refraction or reflection of God? Ashe, I am not a Christian. The Egyptian yoga philosophy of enlightenment, this is based upon Kemetic spirituality, and we understand that the persons in the Bible, if they existed, it is said even in the Bible that they spent time in Egypt. They spent time in Egypt, right? And so the laws of Ma'at, right? A lot of those laws of Ma'at are in the 10 Commandments, and it is said there's about 100 commandments, but we just pull out 10. Those emanated from the laws of Ma'at, right? Back in ancient times, people traveled around and they shared wisdom. Alexandria was a central point for a lot of educators and leaders and such, okay? Just like I said before, Joseph spent time in Egypt. He spent time being enculturated in Egypt, okay? So however he ruled and helped came from those premises, wherever we sing. Moses spent time in Egypt. Jesus spent time in Egypt. I'm sure there's more. Abraham came from ancient, what we think is Mesopotamia. So they carried along with them encapsulated truths. Yes, it became something else later. But the absolute truth reigns supreme through any text and any culture and any religious system, right? And yes, we have some refraction of it, but we have a lot of reflection of it as well. Yes, the divine herself. Yes, yes, yes. All right, so I'm getting out of here because I must go. But y'all be blessed. Choose ye this day whether you want to come out or stay imprisoned. It's up to you. Ashe. Thank y'all for tapping the screen. Get your last taps in real quick before I go. Thank you, B-side. Tap, 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 tap. Get the last ones in, because I'll be looking at my likes, and I'll be looking at the likes of some other lives that I sit on. And maybe it's because you're thinking that you're not tapping when I'm teaching. Because there could be someone sitting on the screen just kind of drinking a drink and looking, and they'll have hundreds of likes. And then I'll be teaching and I look at mine and I have to say, y'all tap. And then it'd be like 4,000, 10,000. And I'd be like, maybe it's because y'all be thinking, like you're not thinking on the other one, you're just tapping. But you actually have to stop and soak in the information. Is that what it is? Because I want to know. I'm giving y'all a chance to type. That's why I'm just pausing here. I'm done with the teaching. Okay, multitasking. Okay. I'll be wondering. All right, so one more thing. My most recent audio, which is based upon my ebook, I haven't released the ebook yet, but I have a testing version of the audio of my ebook called Esoteric Shadow Work. So I have the basics of shadow work in there that you probably have heard from me already, but I add an additional layer of Hermeticism there. It's in my profile. So if you're new, I'm giving y'all a chance to type. If you're new and you don't know how to get there, let me show you. You're going to need to go to my page. And down here, it says Lemonade plus one more. You're going to click on the one more. It's going to pull up a screen at the bottom. Thank you, King Ra. Third eyes are being open too, Ashe. You're going to tap the one that says Link Tree. When you tap that, you see it right here. You enter the payment and I'm going to email it to you because right now it's not automated. I'm testing how I like this, and if I like it, then I will automate it. Hello, Monique Ruffin Moon Mama. How are you? Good to see you. You know, Moon Mama, I don't know if you mind. I think you don't mind if I talk about your influence on my life. You know, as we grow, we have influences. We have teachers and mentors and books and videos that we've watched that have influenced our points of view, right? And I want to share a very meaningful moment with you, Monique. I don't know if I think I shared it with you before. I don't know. But one day I was in a group that you were in, and the thread was giving us permission to vent, right? And so I placed my vent in the thread. And you said, I think you can go a little bit deeper. You said something to this effect, right? I think you can go a little bit deeper into vulnerability because that's not a vent. And I was like, that is a vent. I did. You know, then I was just like, okay, what is a vent? I think this was back in 2020, 2019, something like that. And so I was just like, I felt like I vented. So then you vented, you put a vent there. And I was like, oh, there's levels to this. So then I went inside myself and gave myself permission for full expression. And as I typed that vent into that chat, just tears started coming. And I started feeling angry and all of these emotions. And I said, that was a moment that catalyzed me internally, because I was so used to processing inside and giving a filtered response, or um, a response that I felt was intellectualized. I wouldn't have called it that word back then. And I have so many of those stories to tell, right? But that's the one that comes up for me today. So I am so grateful for you. And I'm grateful for the work that you do. And I'm grateful for the experience that you've had. I mean, the influence that you've had, the impact that you've had on my life, Ashe. So y'all follow Moon Mama. Moon Mama is an astrologer. I was in Moon Mama's 13 Moons program back when I first came in contact with her. She was the first one who did my natal chart readings. Just a lot of growth and internal growth. Physically, too. I was growing physically while that was happening as well. But that definitely is a leader, a healer, a guide that I trust. So please do follow Moon Mama. And she has like all these beautiful courses when retrogrades come up and eclipses come up, and she would lead you in some deep, deep, deep introspection. I am a powerful being. Ashe, ashe. Mm-mm-mm. I'm full on the inside. I do have to go, but I'm going to take this energy with me just of gratitude for where I've been and also where I'm going. Thank you for popping in, Monique. Every time you pop in, my whole soul just be like, hey, Moon Mama. Thank you, Try Kind. All right, y'all. Peace.